If anybody has not seen that scene from The Office, it's terribly cringy, but it fits what we're trying to do today because we're going to talk about leading with integrity and ethics, ethical leadership, ethical dilemmas, toxic leadership, all key points from the chapter reading. I'm going to start with a story. I'm actually going to sit on my little stool here. I'm going to start with a story that I think resonates really well with this chapter. Been here for too long, start messing my hair. In 2004, 2005, I believe, a friend of mine was here at Texas A&M running for student body president. And obviously, you all know that's a pretty big deal. If you don't vote for student body president, and that's a significant role. And so the gentleman, we'll call him Ben. Ben was campaigning, getting the posters out in 2004, 2005. Wasn't a lot of social media at the time, so it was a lot of the getting posters, flyers, getting the word out there, doing little speeches. And he was campaigning. After he gave a speech, a fellow student came up to him and said, "I don't like you." Okay, thank you for your feedback. She said, "I don't like you, but I'm going to vote for you." And he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm really confused. What's going on here? Is this a prank? Are you just trying to be mean?" She said, "No, I don't really care for what you stand for, but I know you'll do things the right way. I know you're a person of integrity." And he felt really awkward. And Ben's like, I don't know you. I'm so sorry." She said, "No, we don't really know each other, but we did have an interaction once. And we were in high school. It was a group of friends, 6 or 7 of us all in a van. And it's maybe 10th or 11th grade. And we went to a 7-Eleven at our local high school. And as we were leaving, you were in the van, so we all came in and we all took cups from the 7-Eleven, 79 cents, 80 cents a cup, filled them up with drinks, and we were leaving. And you asked, "Hey, did y'all pay for these?" Of course, we're like, "No, let's go." And in front of everyone, you got out of the van and we left you. And you got out of the van because you said, "That's not right. I'm going to go pay for these drinks." And we left you. And it wasn't, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was the principle. And she said, "That's something that stuck with me about doing the right thing. And even though it wasn't the popular thing to do at the time, you led with integrity. And I believe you'll maintain leadership, maintain your ethics through leadership with the student body presidency." So I start this lecture with this story of leading with integrity because the textbook provides a lot of assumptions about ethical leadership. It's the heart of leadership. Leadership is values driven. Everything we do teaches some way or the other. Ethical leadership is a shared process. Character development is an essential ingredient of ethical leadership. A lot of these assumptions that are provided. And I think first we can learn from leadership, and some of your leaders may have had have made poor choices. Potentially, they've had bad leadership. So learning from good and bad leadership. And I want y'all to even think about your teachers, your coaches, relationships you had. It's important to learn from those. I've had some bad coaches that I've learned from that were really impactful. The impact was not the impact I wanted to have, but boy, it sure changed my direction, how I lead people. So Kellerman provides 2 categories of bad leadership. Bad is ineffective. Ineffective leadership includes the failure of achieving a desired change, or bad as unethical, fails to distinguish between right and wrong. We have to have our core values that keep us on path to what we need to do, what's right. But ethical decision making is important. That a leader is prepared to receive criticism. Some members will revolt and perhaps experience a decline in membership. Not everyone is prepared or willing to do the right thing or has moral orientation. And part of leadership process is to fully explain to others the problem at hand and the basis for your actions and decision. That's that authentic leadership of being transparent. But there are ethical dilemmas. allowing yourself and others time to work through complex problems and engage with that process that includes reflection and action, because our natural tendency is we want to react quickly to resolve a dilemma. Or sometimes in ethical dilemmas, we pretend it didn't happen. I see that a lot in youth settings where people, counselors, teachers will just ignore that happened. Someone bullied someone. Well, that's a dilemma that we need to address. We don't want to pretend that didn't happen. But there are also things that occur that do take time. So including others in the resolution leads to feelings of empowerment. If you're a leader that made a mistake, owning up to that. But the chapter, it provides a discussion of the process of creating and sustaining ethical organizations. Talks about analysis of moral dimensions of transforming leadership theory and examination of ethical influences that participants have on their organizations through behavior modeling. But Kidder's ethical decision-making model, N-based thinking, so do whatever produces the greatest good for the greatest number. Rule-based thinking, follow the principle that you want everyone else to follow. And care-based thinking is do to others what you think you like them to do to you. And all those, again, are unpacked within the textbook, within your slides I provide. But there are ethical principles in decision-making. And just to conclude, when you're looking at these different models, I want you to think about the different approaches to resolving ethical dilemmas. Utilizing professional codes of conduct, rituals, standards, constitutions, and bylaws. Those are very important. Policies and procedures, if you're leading an organization, are much easier to follow on rather than my own moral code, but also make sure it matches the organization. Ethics is not a neat and tidy concept. It requires human judgment, analysis to determine whether the situation represents an ethical dilemma or something else, such as like a personality conflict. So when I am running a program, I have a conduct policy for my staff and for my campers. And that's something that is nice to have, because if something comes up, we can refer back to the policy, and the policy is agreed on upon the board, and the board shares the conduct policy with the parents and with the campers. So everyone's on the same page. So if something were to come up, we have that code of conduct. There are things there, but there's also, there are things that are unwritten that we have to be mindful of even within our culture. The pendulum shifts, so you have to be mindful of what culture is pressing with some of your decision making. I think this is a very important chapter. Be sure that you look at the transformational leadership theory, cultural assumptions, and also the moral purpose as an act of courage. Okay, those are some key points, but I think you'll enjoy the stories, the student essays, and the chapter overview for chapter 6. Have a happy and healthy week. Make good friends and good decisions. And let's be ethical. Meeting is over.